Hello all, I welcome my students and viewers to my Political Science YouTube platform, and today I will be discussing the second part of comparative political system, and the country which we are doing right now is Brazil. So in the earlier part I had already discussed with a few important topics, a few important themes, and today we are going to discuss the important features as well as the societal and political landscape. Let us begin with the salient features of the Brazilian constitution. The Federal Constitution of Brazil, enacted on October 5th, 1988, is the supreme law of Brazil and serves as the foundation for the legal system and governance of the country. Now, as far as we look into the democratic principles, as Brazil is a democratic country, and as I was discussing in the class, I told you that when we are looking into Brazil and the other factors in Brazil, so we have to also look into this aspect that since Brazil is also sharing certain history, certain common aspects with America. So since America is a democratic country, so Brazil is also a democratic country, and a few important features are also correlating with that. So when you are preparing for American Constitution and dealing with that, you can also simultaneously cope up with few other important features of the Brazil Constitution. Brazil is part of democratic principle, which guarantees the separation of powers among the executive, legislature, and judicial branches of the government. Now, as far as fundamental rights and liberties are concerned, there are a wide range of rights which guarantees fundamental rights to Brazilian citizens, including the right to life, liberty, equality, dignity, freedom of speech, press, religion, association, education, health, housing, and work. Now, the other important features, so you have to also look into the other aspects. For example, the social welfare aspect, it also focuses on the social welfare aspect, and it focuses on the reduction of social inequality, social security, labor rights, and the promotion of social and economic development. Then it also promotes the protection of vulnerable groups. It protects the rights of indigenous peoples, descendants of African slaves, and other vulnerable groups. Then it also focuses on the environmental protection, as the Brazil Constitution guarantees the right to a healthy environment and imposes a duty on both the government and the community to preserve and protect it. So यहाँ पे जो हम ब्राज़ील का जो संविधान देख रहे हैं, जो हिंदी वाले स्टूडेंट्स हैं, तो उनके लिए मैं ये कहना चाहती हूँ कि जो आपका ये पेपर है कंपैरेटिव पॉलिटिकल सिस्टम का, जिसमें बहुत सारे कंट्रीज़ आपको करने हैं और ये पहला आपका बैच है, तो इस जो कंट्रीज़ हैं, सबसे स्पेसिफिक जो भी कंट्रीज़ आप कर रहे हो, तो पहले तो उनका जो भी कॉमनैलिटीज़ है किसी और कंट्री के साथ, हम उसको कोरिलेट करके समझ सकते हैं. तो अमेरिका और ब्राज़ील को अगर हम साथ में कर लें तो थोड़ा सा हमें सुविधा हो जाएगी, क्योंकि हम वहाँ के भी कुछ कॉमन रूट्स हैं और कॉमन फीचर्स हैं जो यहाँ पे हैं. तो ये आप ऐसे कर सकते हो, उसको आप उसके मतलब अनुसार उस फैक्टर को देख सकते हो. तो अब जब हम देखते हैं अदर salient features of Brazilian constitution, what are they? So I told you that in America we discussed the judicial review, the power of judicial review, the judiciary, and since America is a federal constitution and so is the Brazilian, so it has the judicial independence. So is there in India also. So it guarantees the independence of the judiciary and it establishes the Supreme Court as the highest court in the country. Then we have citizen participation. Now, what kind of citizen participation we look into? So it encourages participation. The constitution encourages citizen participation in decision making processes. It guarantees the right to form associations, trade unions, and political parties, and establishes mechanisms for public participation in policy making and the protection of consumer rights. Now, Brazilian constitution, if we conclude, the federal constitution of Brazil is a crucial document that underpins the legal system and governance of Brazil, and reflecting principles of democracy, human rights, social welfare. Now, by upholding these principles and ensuring the protection of individual rights and liberties, it continues to thrive as a democratic and prosperous nation. Now, if we move into the second part, that is the Brazil socio-political landscape. So, Brazil has a unique socio-political landscape shaped by its history, culture, and political development. Now, when we look into the socio-political key aspects, what are the socio-political key aspects? Brazil's socio-political features showcase a complex interplay between historical legacies, economic disparities, environmental challenges, and dynamic cultural identities. Brazil boasts a unique blend of socio-political features shaped by its history, geography, and cultural diversity. So, what are the important features which we can locate in within the socio-political landscape and context? First is racial diversity and social inequality. Now, since Brazil is known for its diverse population with a significant portion of mixed race individuals, however, this diversity coexists with deep rooted social inequalities, particularly along racial lines. Now, despite progress, issues like racism, as we discussed in South Africa, also in America, also discrimination still persists, impacting access to education, healthcare, and economic opportunities. Then the second socio-political aspect is political polarization and instability. Now, Brazilian politics have often been characterized by significant polarization and instability. This is reflected in frequent shifts in political alliances, the rise of populist movements, and challenges to democratic institutions. The role of religion. अब धर्म का क्या रोल है यहाँ पे? तो religion, particularly Catholicism, has played a significant role in Brazilian society and politics. While secularism has grown, religious beliefs continue to influence socio and political debates, particularly on issues such as abortion and same-sex marriage. Then the environmental concerns, as we discussed in the previous slides, that the Brazil constitution pays importance to the environmental protection, so it remains a key concern here, climate change and deforestation. Then the legacy of slavery and colonialism. Brazil's history of slavery and colonialism continues to shape its social and political landscape. The legacy of these periods can be seen in issues such as racial inequality, land ownership, and the marginalization of indigenous populations. Then, federalism with strong central tendencies. Brazil has federalism. America has federalism. American Constitution is federal in character. Now, why? What do we mean by federalism? I told many times in class that federalism, obviously it signifies division of powers, but apart from these division of powers, there are other important features also. We should know what exactly are the other features. Now, federalism, when we are saying federalism with strong central tendencies, means federalism is twisted. When federalism is apart from federalism, the central tendencies that we see that there is a strong trend, central tendency. Center is also equally powerful apart from the state. So Brazil is a federal republic with 26 states and one federal district, which is known as Brasilia. While states have autonomy, the central government wields significant influence, particularly in economic and policy matters. States and municipalities, they play critical roles in areas like education, healthcare, infrastructure, reflecting a decentralized administrative structure. They have a decentralized administrative structure, but we find that there is a presidential form of government. So there is a strong tendencies which is found in Brazil. Now, presidential system with coalition politics. Now, Brazil has a presidential system, presidential form of government with its proportional representation electoral system format, which results in a fragmented Congress with multiple political parties. To govern effectively, presidents must form broad coalitions, leading to complex negotiations and coalition presidentialism. This system sometimes results in inefficiency and political instability as alliances shift frequently. Now, legacy of military rule. Now, in Brazil, we find that from 1964 to 1985, it has a history of military legacy, military rule under a military dictatorship, leaving a lasting impact on its political institutions and public memory. The transition to democracy was introduced in the year 1988, emphasizing civil liberties, human rights, and decentralization. The military still holds symbolic importance with occasional involvement in political discourse. Now, the persistent inequalities, as we have already discussed, that there are different forms of social inequalities, as well as despite being one of the largest economies in the world, Brazil faces high levels of income inequality, which deeply influences its social political landscapes also, such as poverty issues are there, housing shortages, and limited access to quality education and health is also there. Now we find the racial and the cultural diversity, and because there are different races, there are racial discrimination also which exists there. So how we cope up with that? So Brazil being one of the most ethnically diverse countries with significant Afro-Brazilian, indigenous and European descendant populations, the history of slavery abolished in 1988 still affects racial inequalities, with Afro-Brazilians facing disproportionate poverty and exclusion. Movements advocating for racial and social justice, such as black consciousness movements, they have gained prominence in recent decades. Now there are land and environmental politics which also operates there. Brazil houses the Amazon rainforest, making environmental protection a key global and domestic issue. Land ownership is highly concentrated, with tensions between large landowners, indigenous groups, and landless movements, those like tribal, rural, Semtera, MST. Now policies under different administrations are also there, like deforestations under Jair Bolsonaro have sparked intense political debates and international attention. Now if you talk about the political polarization, as I told you that there are coalition, we find the coalition politics operates there, and it has also experienced growing political polarization in recent years, particularly during the presidencies of Luis Inacio Lula da Silva and then Dilma Rousseff and other presidential form of government which we find here. Now issues such as corruption also and the other scandals which keeps operating there, so it also results in certain political instabilities. Then there are also a strong civil society presence and grassroots movement which makes it more vibrant and democratic. So and examples one can find that MST, feminist movements, LGBTQ plus right groups and environmental advocacy organizations are very active there. So social welfare innovations, if we find Brazil implemented Bolsa Familia, a pioneering conditional cash transfer program to reduce poverty and inequality. It has been a model for similar programs worldwide. These policies have helped lift millions out of poverty but remain a point of contention in political debates. Now if we talk about the electoral system and the voter participation, Brazil has compulsory voting pattern which leads to higher voter turnout in elections. Its electronic voting system is widely recognized as efficient and transparent. Elections are marked by intense political campaigns with significant media influence and debates over campaign financing. तो अगर हम ब्राज़ील में देखें जो वहाँ की जो चुनावी व्यवस्था है, जिस तरह से हमने पहले डिस्कस किया कि यहाँ पे कंपलसरी वोटिंग पैटर्न है, कोalition पॉलिटिक्स है, ट्रांसपेरेंट तरीके से चीज़ों को ऑपरेट करते हैं हम, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक जो व्यवस्था है बहुत ट्रांसपेरेंट है, डेमोक्रेटिक है और काफ़ी इंटेंस लोगों का पार्टिसिपेशन रहता है. एंड इफ़ यू फाइंड द ग्लोबल एंड द रीजनल इन्फ्लुएंस, being the largest country in South America, so it's part of overall the USA, it is part of the South America part. So Brazil wields significant influence in regional organization like Mercosur and UNASUR, being the part of the BRICS, the famous BRICS group, Russia, India, China and South Africa, reflecting its aspirations for greater global influence. So if you can connect the Brazil, when you're talking about the Brazil, you can also connect how important it is vis-a-vis the BRICS formation, so you can make it more, you can explore the topics more and more. So these are just a few of the unique socio-political features of Brazil. The country's complex history and diverse populations make it a fascinating case study for understanding the interplay of social, political and economic force in a modern nation. Brazil has a unique socio-political landscape, as we discussed, shaped by its history, culture and political development. So I hope this video could help you in understanding the Brazil and its socio-political landscape as well as the important features. So we will continue with the third part of the Brazil, which will talk about the other aspects like the political participation in more details, and then the key challenges which it faces, what are the main issues and how the constitution developed, the constitutional development, the whole constitutional development, that evolution, that part we'll talk, and then we can just sum it up, the Brazil constitution. Hope you will continue with it and stay connected. Thank you.